Running a business means solving problems. I tell you how the smartest entrepreneurs do it. Hi, I'm Jason Feifer, editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine, and this is Problem Solvers. Of all the incredibly hard things about entrepreneurship, this might be the hardest. You come up with a great idea. You pour everything you have into it, all of your energy, all of your love, all of your money. You get it to market. It works. People like it. And then because people like it, other people noticed that it is a successful idea, and then they knock you off. They just steal everything that you have done, and they come out with a version that is, if not exactly the same, then really similar, and they start to steal your thunder. So what do you do? Today, I am talking with someone who knows the answer to that because she has dealt with it so often and yet still built a brand that I love, that my kids love. I am so excited today to talk to you, Melissa Bernstein, co-founder of Melissa and Doug Toys. Melissa is on tour right now, so to speak, for her new book, which is fantastic, called The Heart of Entrepreneurship, Crafting Your Authentic Recipe for Success. And we are talking today about this one particular part of the recipe, which is how to survive the knockoffs. Melissa, welcome to Problem Solvers. I'm so excited you're here.
I am so excited to talk about this topic because I don't talk about it at all. So it's going to be really fun.
Oh, wow. I'm so glad to hit something that feels like new and fresh in the world of Melissa and Doug. I mean, you must have dealt with this so often because your toys, anybody who has kids who have had your toys knows, they are at their heart so simple. They are tactile. They are puzzles. They are, lifting letters and hearing. They're the kinds of things that kids need, but they're also, frankly, the kinds of things that are really easy to knock off. And so you must have dealt with this so often.
We did, because our concepts really weren't patentable. And one of the hardest things was we were most often knocked off by our own large customers, which made it even a more complex issue because you can't necessarily go with some of the litigation route that you would want to, because they're also still one of your largest customers.
Right. And what do you mean by that? Like who? Like what kind of large customer? What are we talking about?
Everyone you can imagine. I mean, Target, Walmart, Amazon, Toys R Us when they were in business. Every single one of them ultimately ended up copying our best ideas and coming out with them under their own private label brands.
Right. And then just selling that right alongside yours.
Yep. Because all these customers are looking to get higher margins. So basically, if they can do it factory direct in their own brand, they're going to cut out what we are, which would be a middleman, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you start? How did you deal with this? Maybe even before you came up with what I know is now a formula for dealing with this. If you can take me back to when you guys first encountered this, what did you think and what did you try to do?
Oh my goodness. If you knew, the first time this happened was with our very first product, our fuzzy puzzle. And that was back in early 1990s. And we heard from a customer that someone had copied our one product, which of course for us, it was our only product. It was life or death. I mean, we had, as you mentioned, we had poured every single ounce of our energy, our money, our time into this. And we heard that a retailer had it in New Jersey. We were in Connecticut. And we were in an all-out panic attack, both Doug and I. We jumped into our beat-up car and we drove all the way to New Jersey to this store to try to see what they were talking about. And the interesting fact was when we finally saw what they were talking about, we both breathed a sigh of relief because although it was indeed a copy, it wasn't a well done copy. And it was done differently than ours. And that's when we said, whew, it's a copy, but they missed a lot of the nuance that made our product really special.
Yeah, although I bet a lot of people experience exactly that, whereas it's a copy, but it's also not a well-done copy. And yet, a not well-done copy has its own kind of risks, doesn't it? Because number one, people can buy the crappy thing and then think that it's a Melissa and Doug product, and then it is harming your reputation even though you had nothing to do with it. Or it's a crappy thing, but also it is half the price of yours. And so people are like, well, it doesn't really matter. I'll just get the crappier thing. And if it's a little crappy, at least I saved some money. So like either way, this is a threat.
It is. And one of the variables for if something is a copy when it's a non-patented product is, does it cause confusion in the marketplace? And when it was online, like on Amazon, and this happened, unfortunately, every day, like it started to happen scores of times each day. I would even look online and sometimes I'd think that someone's copy was my product. That was a problem. And we did start to get calls of people wanting to return something that they thought was ours. And when we asked them for the serial number, it wasn't ours. It was a poorly made copy of ours that didn't perform like it was supposed to. And then one of the other complexities that started to happen was people would put up phony reviews overnight. So they'd actually have 100 5-star reviews for a very subpar product. So people would be very angry because they would buy it thinking that it was going to perform at a certain level. And then they'd be ultra disappointed and they'd call us with something they thought was ours that wasn't ours. So this problem has gotten a little better over time. We, I think, are one of the many companies that raised the level. We were so incensed at one point that we went to the very top of Amazon and we said, this cannot continue. We will pull ourselves off this platform. It is not cool what's going on. And they started to put some restraints in place. But basically the onus was on us to find these copies and to pull them off. And it was a full-time job for a whole legal team, which we compensated. And then the companies that had them up, although they would ultimately get pulled down, all the sales they got in the 3 or 4 months it took to get them off, we didn't recoup. And Amazon made money on them, and the factory made money on them that put out this copy. So it wasn't quite a fair equation, but ultimately one of the costs of doing business.
Yeah. So how did you eventually systematize attacking this problem?
It's an amazing question. And it's probably, although I don't share it publicly like this, I mentor hundreds of entrepreneurs. We have an accelerator at Duke University. And it is one of the questions I hear the most, because these entrepreneurs, they have their little fledgling baby in their hands and they're terrified about somebody taking their idea. And it's really 3 things that have helped me. And they're hard things. So the problem is not everybody can achieve these 3 core tenets that you need to follow. But the first and the most important is continual and incessant innovation. So I love the phrase, and I can't attribute it to anyone. There's no real attribution, but nobody can copy as fast as I can create. So I love this idea that if you're looking backward in the rearview mirror, right, you're back in the past. You're not focusing on getting further ahead. So what I started to realize is, okay, they're copying us rapidly, but they're not copying us for a few months, at least. I mean, I used to say it was a year and a half before they actually got wind that something, because it has to sell at a certain level before people really get wind of it. Now it's quicker. We've already had something copied for our new company, Lifelines, and it was about 6 months. But it's about 6 months. So guess what I can do in 6 months? I can come out with 25 new products that are as good or better than that product. And what I've realized over time is the knockoffs will skim off the cream, but they can't take the whole milk. So even if they're taking 1 or 2 of your good items, they're not going to take the whole thing. So I focus all that energy. Whenever I'm prone to looking backward, I take a deep breath and I say, no. Keep on creating, Melissa. Keep on pushing the bar forward and further up. And then you start to become the leader, the clear leader, and it becomes very clear that you're ahead of everyone else. And I love that feeling, where, sure, follow me, but you're not going to be ahead of me.
So how would you take that advice and then apply it to someone who's at a really early stage and maybe just has one hero product or a small slate and has been advised, don't expand too fast, don't create a million SKUs, you don't want to stretch yourself too thin. I mean, at this point, Melissa and Doug has such name recognition and the ability to, I assume, churn out concepts at a pretty fast clip. But that's not something that someone who's just starting out can do, right?
Well, you do need to wait until the consumer speaks. So you don't do it too soon. I don't even do it too soon today with our new company that's not profitable yet. So I'm right with all my mentees there, with this line that was just copied. I waited. You put out your idea and then you hold your breath and you wait to see what the consumer thinks. If the consumer gives you that nod of approval and suddenly you realize, oh boy, I have something really hot on my hands, that is when you begin to expand. And I'm not saying you start to go all over the map, but your expansion is more themes of the same thing immediately, right? They're very smart ways to expand where you're growing a concept within the confines of that concept that are very, very wise. So more styles, a smaller one, a larger one, a bulk pack, right? The things that in consumer products are sort of your go-tos to take something that's one product and turn it into a small assortment. So that's what I do immediately, because especially if it's a consumable, and it also depends what type of product it is, but if it's a consumable, something people are using and then want more of, it's very easy to do more themes in it. So that's where I'll advise someone, depending on what their product is, like once they get that validation that they have something really incredible on their hands, they must expand kind of as quickly as they can.
Okay, so step one here is constant creation. What's step two?
Step two in our book is accessible pricing. So, it all depends on what you want to be. But we wanted to have our product in the hands of as many people as possible and be a mass market player. So that means that you have to offer the best for the least. And you truly have to make a product that is exemplary in every sense. Great quality, great design, great customer experience at a really, really fair, affordable price. And I was always a champion of the consumer. I truly believe that great quality, well-designed products should be accessible to every hardworking person. And because of that, I was very cognizant and conscious that we wanted our pricing to be really, really good. That someone look at our products and say, that's fair. Like that is worth every cent I'm paying. And knockoffs come in. And by the way, we've seen this. There's a great Melissa and Doug story here. So, throughout the 32 years that Doug and I were part of Melissa and Doug, this was maybe our number one battle cry. Accessible pricing, do not overcharge, make really low, fair margins, but just enough and not so much that anybody sees that fat to come in and copy us. Because, one of the main reasons that copycats come in is because you're overcharging. And they can come in and charge, 20, 30% less and offer something very similar. But with us, the truth is, and now it's been proven, that our low pricing was a thwart to so many private brands, so many other manufacturers, because they looked at our quality. They saw we were offering a really incredible product and they were like, oh, not enough room to come in. Because if we come in, we're going to be at the same price and perhaps not even offer something as high quality as Melissa and Doug is offering.
Right. And then once you've built your brand recognition, once people know the name Melissa and Doug, then the only thing that a knockoff can really compete on is price. And if your price is low enough where the difference between your price and their price is marginal, then you'll win on brand story, won't you?
Exactly. But what a lot of advisors tell you is once you have that brand, that you have the permission to start to raise your price and charge more. And that's what ended up happening with Melissa and Doug, unfortunately. In new ownership, Melissa and Doug decided to charge for brand and raise prices 30% more. And guess what happened? More knockoffs than you could ever imagine suddenly came in and literally cut the legs right off of Melissa and Doug where it was. And today, Melissa and Doug has lost half its value, because of that. And now they're retrenching like as quickly as they can to lower prices and sort of go back to where we were 4 years ago, when accessible pricing was our mantra. So
Wow,
it really
that's so
proved out.
interesting.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, that's been what has that been like for you and Doug to watch, from the outside, to see them drift upward on price and then get undercut and it hurt the company?
Horrifying, honestly, because we knew it and we said it was going to happen. And I think, it's an easy way to improve your profitability. And it's always the go-to because it's the easiest thing to do. And short term, you think it's amazing. Wow, look, people are willing to pay more for these same products. But basically that profit is everyone else's opportunity to come in. And we saw it with our customers. They came in with their own owned brands. We saw it with a lot of other competitors who had stayed out of our space because there wasn't room, come in. And now that they're in there, then it's very hard to get them to leave because
Right.
they're seeing that it's a good category.
Yeah. And I imagine also it's harder than to create the pass along brand love effect in a category like yours, where, for example, every somewhat experienced parent tells the new parent, oh, you got to get the Melissa and Doug stuff. The kid is going to love it, right? But now if you've allowed the category to become more crowded, then there isn't that same affection to the brand. They're not passing it along as much. And then Melissa and Doug sinks into the category instead of leads it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's so, in a way, it's been a fascinating exercise because we had this supposition for all these years, right? And we lived it and we held on to it with every ounce of our being. Every board we were on wanted us to raise prices. And Doug and I said, no. That's the last straw. Literally, we will take this one to the mat. And we did. We took it to the mat. And the second we weren't there, it was the first thing that changed. And it was the downfall, and they'll regroup and they'll retrench and they'll get back there. But it's sort of ironic that it's now one of their core missions for 2026 is to go back to accessible pricing when that's what was always, what we had.
Final question on this, and then I want to move on to the third point about how to combat knockoffs. But as we're talking about this and the disappointment that you and Doug have of watching this, I'm just curious if you feel like there's a distinct kind of experience that you guys have watching the company that you're no longer a part of and making, them making decisions that you wouldn't have made yourself because your names are in the company name. Everybody has some version of this when they exit. They watch, they say, I wouldn't have done it like that. Oh, that's a disappointment. But, it's also another thing to keep referring to the company by your own name as you are doing over and over again. What's that like?
I mean, I have to say it's been a journey. And much more painful a few years ago than it is today. But yes, very, very, very painful to see that and to know so clearly what should be done because, it was instinctive. We started Melissa and Doug at 22 and 24 and we grew up with it. We found ourselves through it. We learned every hard lesson, the hardest way possible. And I think we knew that company like our own child. So when we felt a certain way, it wasn't really just because we were being dogmatic. It's because we knew instinctively what was right. And I think when, other people come in who've had experience the more textbook way and have their certain model on the way they do things and it clashes with how you're doing it, you try and fight for what you believe. But I think new people, they want to try their way. And hey, Doug and I made, what happened was because of decisions we made. So we can't blame anyone. It was completely our doing and how it ended up we didn't want to happen, but it was based on our doing and decisions we made. So I think we did the only thing entrepreneurs can ultimately do is we started a new company doing it exactly our way and the way we did Melissa and Doug when Melissa and Doug started. And that's the only way that the pain lessened. And now, I can look at it and say it was meant to happen because I'm having such joy with our new company and building it in a way that, I feel is authentic to the brand. And Doug and I are having like a complete blast doing this. So,
and the new company is, tell us a little bit about the
yeah.
company.
So it's something I never imagined, and I wouldn't have done had that not happened with Melissa and Doug. We are a well-being brand making products for right when Melissa and Doug ends, people 9 to 99. And they're well-being products in the sensory space. So they delight your senses and make you feel calm and joy. So they're really delightful. And it's so much fun making products for people like me and for myself. I never thought I would have this opportunity. So, there's always a silver lining in misfortune. And although I never would have imagined I wouldn't die at Melissa and Doug and be there till the end of my career, this enabled me to try something that I never thought I was capable of. And Doug and I to embark on this journey once again. And I'd say he's doing a ton of stuff he hasn't done in decades. And really, he was just telling me today that he has to put this company on his back and drag it over the end zone because it's so hard and nobody's doing it the way he wants them to do it. And he said, I'm older now. It was kind of sad. He said, and I'm really tired, but I am going to do it. And it was really cute. And I was like, oh, sweetie, I am so sorry you're having to do this. But even though he's saying that, he's really good at it and he's really enjoying it. I know it somewhere there.
And I think this is an important thing for entrepreneurs to hear, by the way, because here you guys are, you've built an incredible brand that every parent knows, and that doesn't make entrepreneurship any easier, does it?
Can I tell you, when people say, oh, you've already built $1 billion company, this is going to be easy for you. This is harder than anything we've ever done. It's harder than Melissa and Doug, and it's completely different. It's 35 years later, and the world has completely changed. So other than us having these core tenets of, being authentic and being true to the consumer and working hard, nothing else is even remotely the same. It's an entirely different industry too. So yeah. Very, very different and very punishing, very humbling in every aspect.
Well, welcome back to entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
All right. So we have create faster than your competition can knock you off. We have keep prices low so that they can't undercut you. And what is the third way to keep the competitors at bay?
It's distribute them everywhere so that nobody is looking for them and can't find them and someone else can fill that need. So I think one of the things I really advise all my mentees is don't just use D2C. I think today it's kind of the easy, well, it's not easy. It's the hardest path there is, but in a sense, it's the easy way to go like, oh, I'm just going to put up a website and sell D2C. Well, first of all, D2C, at $100 per customer cost of acquisition, like it's really not profitable for most people. But I think in terms of being innovative and creative, this is another area where you really have to flex that creativity muscle. And you have to think really creatively about how can I reach my target market? What are some really unique ways that no one else is doing? And that's what we're doing with Lifelines. Not only are we're just starting to think about D2C, but from the beginning, we decided to, again, it's very counter today. We decided to go the bricks and mortar retail way. And it's much harder. You're selling individually to these stores. You're traveling to Minneapolis to meet with them. You're traveling to a lot of trade shows to meet with the smaller stores. And it's a punishing, grueling road. But wow, it feels so good when you know that you're in 1,000 accounts and you have that in addition to a D2C model. And you're selling to niche groups. You're selling to nursing groups. You're selling to teachers. So there's so much in that distribution model that is hard work. But if you really want to win, you will do it as creatively and innovatively as you create your product, because ultimately it's a real barrier to entry for anyone else.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of founders say that retail isn't just about a sales channel. Retail is marketing. Retail is brand positioning, because the more in which you can just get in front of the consumer and also build the associations for them. So if they walk into, let's just use toys for an example. If you walk into a toy store and your toys are not there, then people aren't making the same association. And so this is an interesting way of thinking about it. Obviously, this, as you said, is a more complicated world, building Lifelines, than it was when you were building Melissa and Doug, because you didn't have the broad world of e-commerce that you had to deal with back in the 90s. But the premise remains the same, which is you just have to figure out all the places that the consumer is and make sure that you're in front of them so that you are always part of that conversation.
One of the hardest things I've had to do with Lifelines is I've gone live on QVC about, I don't know, a dozen times, having to hawk our product. And, the thing about QVC, the home shopping channel, is they say for every one person that sees it on QVC, like what it is, I think it's 10 others buy it somewhere else. So it's really an effective method for selling your product. And it's marketing, right? As much as you're going to sell that day on QVC, we would always look at all our other channels whenever we had a segment, and everything else went up in the hours following that segment. So that's another channel. It's not a traditional channel. And for Melissa and Doug, it never worked. Our toys never sold well on that channel. But at Lifelines, it's a very effective way to sell our product, along with TikTok Shop, another really new effective channel. Affiliate marketing, another really effective way of selling products. So there are a lot of these new ways that take time and take patience and take some expertise. But if you can conquer them, they're really going to help you avoid other people sort of coming into your area.
Yeah. Melissa, this has been so helpful and so insightful. I know you've got this new book, The Heart of Entrepreneurship, Crafting Your Authentic Recipe for Success. Before we let you go, just tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, well, I believe that all of us have that creative gem inside our hearts that longs to come out. But so many of us are terrified of rejection and terrified that when people see that thing we've been harboring for all these years, they'll say, sorry, I don't want to buy it. It's not good enough. So this book is about how you can take that thing that's been longing to be set free and bring it out to the world in a way that customers are truly clamoring to purchase or use it.
Amazing. Well, Melissa, thank you for one, the insights today. Also, two, to you and Doug for just making fantastic toys that my kids grew up with. And I'm so excited to watch what you guys build with Lifelines.
Thank you for sharing this and for doing all you do to help entrepreneurs.